We've been talking with Frank Gaffney about globalist organizations, really the World Health Organization. And there were some recently proposed amendments to the WHO treaty. Can we call it that? And Snopes, by the way, I'm just going to tell you right now, look it up. Snopes says nothing to see here, absolutely false. But I don't think that's true. Tell me, Frank, what were the proposals to that treaty and the change, and who made them, and what are the implications?
Well, let me just say, don't take my word for it, but certainly don't take Snopes' word for it. What we have established, Kevin, is that back in January of this year, the Biden administration surreptitiously, at the last possible moment, introduced, I believe it was 13 amendments to what are known as the international health regulations that the World Health Organization is supposed to be, implementing. And those regulations were to be modified if the administration had had its way in a whole series of steps that would have diminished the sovereignty of the United States and, for that matter, other member nations of the World Health Organization. It would have essentially entrusted to this fellow Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus the responsibility to determine what is a public health emergency of international concern, FAKE being the acronym for it. And not only would he have the authority at his discretion to decide whether something was a public health emergency of international concern, but he would also be able to direct what would be done in response to it.
Non-medical doctor, known Marxist, right?
Absolutely. And working for the Chinese Communist Party, which has a direct involvement, of course, in precipitating this pandemic and a couple of others that preceded it.
Didn't President Trump take us out of this connection with the World Health Organization?
I think what he did was he decided that he would suspend our funding of it. It's not exactly the same thing, but practically speaking, he was certainly disassociating ourselves from the work of the organization. But one of the first things that Joe Biden's team did when he took office was to reverse that, as with so many other Trump decisions. And we're back in there now, and we are spending a substantial amount of our money supporting it, as is, by the way, Bill Gates with his foundation. And again, that gives those with the cash a say on what is actually done by the organization. But Kevin, here's the key piece. The effort was made, as I said, to keep this from public scrutiny. And it wasn't until, I think, the latter part of April that there was some acknowledgement in the Federal Register, as I recall, that these amendments were indeed in play. And at that point, Jim Brzezinski and a number of others began raising an alarm about what was going on. And the more people looked into it, the more it was clear that what was going on was not in the national security interests of the United States, or for that matter, the public health interests of the United States. And so we saw this turn into quite a thrash in the last week of May at the World Health Assembly, which is where the member nations get together. Most of Africa and a number of other countries, Brazil, as I recall, I think Iran, said, wait a minute, we're not going to go down this road.
Thank God for Africa.
Sovereignty, yeah. But the United States government was prepared to do so.